Today, if you take your newborn baby to sleep in their own bedroom with a crib that has an extremely soft mattress, a baby monitor glowing nearby, a closed door, and a house that is completely peaceful and quiet, you probably won't worry much about your baby's safety. But for 99% of human history, if a baby slept alone in a room, it was probably their last night. There were no cribs, no monitors, and no convenient ways to keep an eye on a baby. What existed instead were dark and cold nights and every kind of predator that could easily smell a human infant from miles away. For nearly 300,000 years, every one of your ancestors faced this problem. Human babies are the most helpless and completely dependent creatures on the planet, and keeping them alive and safe has been one of the hardest tasks our species has ever faced. But how did humans manage to change this situation? The answer changes the way we think about parenting, family, and even what our bodies were designed for. Let's start with the problem, because the problem is actually you. A newborn foal can stand and walk within hours of birth. A newborn chimpanzee immediately grips its mother and clings to her fur. Human babies, on the other hand, cannot even lift their own heads. It takes them years to walk on their own, years to feed themselves, and they cannot survive even a single night without help from someone else. Among all species on Earth, humans are born the most unfinished. And the reason is simple: the human brain. The human brain is so large that if a human baby were born with a brain developed to the same degree as a chimpanzee's, it would not fit through the birth canal, creating serious complications during birth. So evolution made a trade-off. Human babies are born with only about 25% of their adult brain size, whereas chimpanzees are born with about 40%. This means that roughly 75% of human brain development happens after birth. This is not a design flaw, it is a trade. Humans gained the most powerful brain on the planet, but the price was having the most helpless infants. For the last 300,000 years, every mother has faced this challenge. A baby that cannot cling, cannot run, and cannot stop crying even when dangerous predators are nearby. In a world filled with leopards, hyenas, snakes, and countless other threats, a human baby was not a gift from nature. It was a target. So the question is, how did our ancestors keep these babies alive? The answer is something modern life has largely abandoned. They did not do it alone. Humans are different from other apes. A chimpanzee mother raises her baby almost entirely by herself. She carries it, feeds it, and cares for it for around 5 years until another baby is born. If anyone tries to touch her infant, she may become aggressive and protect it. Humans are the opposite. Biologists call us cooperative breeders. We evolved to raise children as a group, not because it was easier or more comfortable, but because it was the only strategy that allowed our species to survive, without the energy, support, and protection provided by others. The enormous cost of growing a large human brain inside such a helpless body would have driven our species to extinction. We did not survive because our ancestors were stronger. We survived because they shared the burden. Among the Ife foragers of the Ituri forest in Congo, researchers found that during an 8-hour period, a baby is held by an average of 14 different people. The baby spends only about 40% of the time with its mother, while the remaining 60% is spent in the arms of grandmothers, older siblings, neighbors, and even women who are not related to the child at all. Some of these women will even breastfeed the baby themselves. Among the Aka people of Central Africa, anthropologist Barry Hewlett found that fathers spend more than 47% of their day within arm's reach of their babies. These weren't modern dads following some parenting trend. These were men living the way humans had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. The baby was never alone. The baby was never left on the ground. The baby was almost always being held by someone, and there was a reason for that. A baby left on the ground was often a dead baby. When early humans started walking upright, they lost the thick body hair that primate babies use to cling to their mothers. A chimp baby can grab onto its mom's fur from the moment it's born and hang on by itself, but human babies have nothing to hold on to. So moms carried every hour of every day for years. They made baby carriers from animal skins and plant fibers. In Italy, archaeologists found the remains of a 10,000-year-old baby named Neve, buried with what appears to have been a decorated baby carrier. But carrying a baby wasn't just about getting from one place to another, it was a survival tool. When a baby is picked up and held against someone's chest, their heart rate slows down, their breathing becomes steady, and they often stop crying. Scientists call this the transport response. It's an ancient survival system built directly into the nervous system. In the wild, a crying baby can attract predators, but a baby that goes quiet the moment it's picked up has a much better chance of surviving. And babies still do this today. When you pick up a screaming newborn and hold them against your chest and they suddenly calm down, they're not just being comforted, they're activating a survival response that's nearly 300,000 years old. Their brain assumes they're being carried to safety, so they become quiet to avoid attracting danger. But carrying babies wasn't enough. They also had to feed them, and what ancient humans fed their babies would probably shock most parents today. Moms breastfed for at least 2 to 3 years. In many hunter-gatherer groups, breastfeeding often continued for 4 years or even longer. This wasn't a parenting choice, it was the only choice. There was no formula, no baby bottles, no clean drinking water safe for infants. Mother's milk was the only dependable source of nutrition. It also contained antibodies that helped babies fight infections in a world with no medicine. Breastfeeding had another effect too. It naturally delayed ovulation. A mom nursing her baby day and night often wouldn't get pregnant again for several years. It was nature's version of birth control because during the Stone Age, raising two completely dependent babies at the same time greatly increased the chances of losing both. And when babies became old enough to eat solid food, there was no baby food, no fruit pouches, and no boxed cereal. Adults would chew meat or tough roots until they became soft and partially digest. Then they would pass the food directly into the child's mouth. That process also transferred digestive enzymes and immune-supporting compounds. Some anthropologists believe this may even be where human kissing originally came from. It didn't start as romance. It may have started as a mother feeding her child in the only way she could, and then there were the grandmas. This is the part most people never see coming. Most animals die not long after they lose the ability to reproduce. From an evolutionary standpoint, there's usually no reason for the body to stay alive once it can no longer pass on its genes. But human women often live for decades after menopause. Why? In 1997, anthropologist Kristen Hawkes from the University of Utah published a study on the Hadza people of Tanzania. She found that older women were some of the hardest working food gatherers in the entire community. They spent hours digging through hard ground under the hot African sun, collecting roots and other foods. Then they shared that food with their grandkids. That allowed mothers to have another child sooner because the first child was already being helped by a grandmother. Hawkes called this the grandmother hypothesis. The idea is that human women evolved to live long after menopause because grandmothers who helped raise their grandkids increased the survival of their family line. Your long lifespan may exist in part because 300,000 years ago, an older woman digging roots under the African sun could mean the difference between a child surviving and starving. Menopause isn't a biological mistake, it's a strategy, and it may be one of the most successful strategies humans ever evolved. Now here's the part that might make modern parents a little uncomfortable. For the last 300,000 years, humans never raised children alone. There was always a community. There was always help. There was always someone you could hand your baby to when you were too exhausted to keep your eyes open. In a typical hunter-gatherer community, a mother received active help from around 5 to 15 people every single day while raising each child. Today, in most industrialized countries, that number has dropped to 2 people, and often just 1. Imagine you're sitting alone in your apartment at 3 a.m., listening to your infant crying at the top of their lungs, and no one is coming to help. There's no grandma downstairs, no close friend nearby, no neighbor you can knock on the door of and ask, "Can you hold the baby for an hour so I can get some sleep?" The exhaustion and loneliness that many modern parents feel isn't weakness. It isn't a character flaw. It's the result of trying to do alone what the human brain and body were never designed to do alone in 300,000 years of evolution. For the entire history of our species, the question was never whether one person could raise a child. The answer to that question was always no. The real question was whether enough people cared about that child to help keep them alive. And for 300,000 years, enough people always did. Because that's the only reason any of us are here today. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video and want to support future content, consider subscribing or making a donation to help fund the next one.